Hello, everyone, and welcome to McGill Cares, a weekly webcast series addressing a wide variety of topics to support family and informal caregivers. I'm Claire Webster, a former caregiver who became a certified Alzheimer care consultant and founder of the McGill University Dementia Education Program. McGill Cares is part of that program. I work with a dynamic team of leading healthcare professionals to oversee this program, which includes Dr. José Moret from the Division of Geriatric Medicine, Dr. Serge Gauthier, McGill University Research Center for Studies in Aging, and Dr. Gerald Freed, McGill Steinberg Center for Simulation and Interactive Learning. These webcasts are made possible thanks to the generosity of our donors and sponsors. Today's webcast is brought to you by Home Care Assistance. Home Care Assistance provides older adults with quality care that enables them to live happier, healthier lives at home. Their services are distinguished by the caliber of their caregivers, the responsiveness of their staff, and their expertise in cognitive care. Today, we will be discussing the impact of early onset dementia. My guest is Chris Wynn, a former caregiver, award-winning filmmaker, and Alzheimer's advocate. Mr. Wynn documented his father's struggles with Alzheimer's disease to produce an award-winning feature documentary for TVO called Forgetful Not Forgotten. He has since produced, Much Too Young, a documentary about younger caregivers that was nominated for a Canadian Screen Award in 2017, and the web series A New Voice, Living Well with Dementia, about a woman living with dementia in her late 40s. His current work explores animated and augmented virtual reality for storytelling. Welcome to our show, Chris.
Hi, Claire. Thanks for having me.
I'm so thrilled to have you. Chris and I have been friends and co-advocates for many, many years now. So I'm really glad to have you on the show and provide you with an opportunity to share your experience as a caregiver and specifically also from a male perspective. So I'd like to really jump right into this. Your father was diagnosed with dementia at the age of 57. You were 27 years old. Tell us what happened.
So yeah, this is going back to 1999, basically. My dad, I think it was basically we had heard of the word Alzheimer's before, but nobody in our family or nobody we knew actually had it. So we only knew what we heard in the media. And we really didn't know that anybody we thought it was just older people, older than 70 or 80 would get it. We didn't realize that anybody that young could get it. But he started off it was really obviously my mother, my brother and sister and I were not living at home at the time, but my mother started to notice little things, memory loss, forgetting names, getting lost easily. So I think she was maybe sitting in a doctor's waiting room, probably for her own appointment, and noticed a poster on the wall saying that, the 10 signs of dementia and Alzheimer's. And she started to realize that that's what John, my dad, had. So he got tested and everything. And, as a young family, we started going to, meeting groups and reading books and stuff like that. And I think, this is going back quite a while ago. I think today there's better resources out there. But back then it was pretty tough to find out, what we thought the disease was like or what was going to happen. So we just kind of, we did what every family does. You kind of learn on your own.
What were some of the signs that, really caused your mother to wonder if something was off with him?
So there were certain things, and I noticed it too, or we just didn't notice it, or we just said, "Oh, he's not listening." So it'd be like, sitting around a room with a group of people, and someone tells a story about something, and then a little bit of time passed, and my dad would start to tell that story like he didn't realize that he just heard it, that he thought it was in his mind. So he would repeat a story. My mom did get calls from his work saying, he would travel and forget all kinds of equipment and stuff to go to a sales meeting or something like that. And then it was just, getting lost driving and things like that. So, but again, we kind of just, I think most families are like, aren't you listening, or what's wrong, or,
And he was young, right? I mean, 57.
Yeah, exactly. And even even when after he was diagnosed, he was still pretty functional, right? So he's really it's really difficult to understand that there's anything wrong with them, because there's nothing really physically wrong with them. Mm-hmm. They still seem young and healthy. And so it's really, I think that's why a lot of families go through denial and stuff like that, because you can't understand that what's going on in their head. So, instead of, I would ask him, I always ask him questions, right? Like, hey, how's your day? Blah, blah, blah. Instead of, trying to, maybe I thought that he could remember these things, like, oh, you remember this person, you remember that happened, you remember this, or I'd ask him a lot of questions and then realize after that, I'm just confusing him. I'm not really helping him. But no one told me to do any different. Again, that's just how we kind of learned as we went. So what happened was, it was like a few years into the disease, he had stopped working and my mother had stopped working, and they were living in Oakville outside of Toronto at the time. But they had always wanted to retire back here to Quebec to our cottage, and which was a very difficult decision for my mother, because it means moving to a rural setting, not enough support. My brother and sister and I are all in Toronto. I don't even know if there were any support groups around in this cottage country where they're going to be living, but it was their decision that that's where they were going to retire to, and that's where they did. But of course, he was getting worse, and she was the sole caregiver. She took on everything and spent 24/7 with him. So it was probably when I was around 30 years old that I decided that I would go and help out. So I ended up quitting my job in Toronto and giving up my apartment. See, my brother and sister were older, and they had started families, and I was still single, and I felt like I could help out a bit more. So I ended up living with them, and I ended up seeing caregiving right up close, seeing my mother on a daily basis. So at first, when I was there, I didn't just jump right into the caregiving role. Like I wasn't like, at this point, my mother was making his meals and helping him get dressed and stuff like that. So my role as a secondary caregiver, let's call it, was basically, and this is what people might not realize that caregivers have to do or do as well, is just to be a companion, right? Because they need stimulation, they need someone to do something with them, and my mother was doing everything, so I was just there to give her a break. So
how was she doing? Like, was she on the verge of burning out at this point, or was it?
Yeah, well, if she was hiding it very well.
Yeah.
Right? Like it does, right? You hide it from family members and friends. So it was tough for sure. But yeah, I mean, I tried to give her breaks, but she was still, primary caregivers feel this burden, like it's their responsibility, and they don't think about themselves. They just think about their loved ones and what they have to do. So yeah, I was there to take my dad for walks, talk with him, keep him occupied. It also got to a point where, this happens a lot too, I'm sure you experienced, like the anger that the person with the disease puts on the primary caregiver. So I was there to try to maybe kind of ease that as well, and try to step in the way or get him to talk to me.
Well, I was going to ask you, I mean, how was your father with his diagnosis? Was he accepting of it? Was he in denial? Like, how did he react?
Yeah, that's a good question, because I know a lot of people are in denial. I don't think he knew. I don't think he knew what it meant. And to be honest, I don't think we knew what that meant, right? No one can kind of give you, oh, this is what's going to happen. And people can kind of say, well, this is going to happen in 3 years, 5 years, 7 years, but until you actually experience it, you can't look at the future. So, he knew he had something called Alzheimer's, and he knew he had problems. He was very open to people. He had no problem telling people that he had memory loss. But again, and whenever anything came on the news, as much as he got to a point where he couldn't even follow TV or read the newspaper, he could always find that he'd hear Alzheimer's or he'd see it in the newspaper. He was very proactive about if there were any kind of test drugs or anything, and my mom looked into that. I think he thought that he could get better, and I think a lot of people think that way. But
how long were you with them, live with them, to take care of them?
It was I moved in with them into this cottage for about a year. I was with them. Again, I was lucky enough to give my mother enough breaks to not just go shopping and go to the doctor, but I think she went to Florida for a week and got to visit. But eventually, being only 30, it's like, okay, I have to, get back to some sort of life. So, I decided not to move back to Toronto. I thought, okay, I'll move into Montreal. So I'm only an hour away to help out. So that was difficult. And still, even when I was there, it was still really tough on my mom, and she, it affected her health as well. So, but I moved into Montreal, but I really felt like, I'd kind of taken a step back, giving in my own career, I guess. I think I took a job as a house painter where in Toronto I was working in film and television, and I just had to take any kind of work. So I really kind of, and a lot of younger caregivers say this as well. It's like you put part of your life on hold
Mhm.
to, help out. So
What
I
impact, like how was that affecting you emotionally? Like this, watching this happen to your father, what was the impact on you?
Yeah, it was obviously very difficult. I used to keep a video journal where I just turn on a video camera at night and like talk, and or because I think my mother kept a written journal, but I just kept a video journal, so that helped a lot, just kind of getting things out. And having a video camera was kind of like my coping mechanism. So basically, I never meant to do this, but living with my mom and dad, I needed something to do. So I had a video camera and I just started filming him and myself. Not really my mom at first, but just him and myself on a daily basis. And it gave me sort of like a project. But yeah, seeing him deteriorate, it's so weird because there's so many little stages that they go through that it's like slow motion at times, and you forget about this stage or that stage, and you're just focused on right now. So it's hard in the moment to look back and think, what it used to be like. I wish it wasn't going through this, but it was definitely difficult. I think we we had a pretty good relationship as a father and son. And again, I don't think he wanted me brushing his teeth in the beginning or changing him.
Mm.
I got to a point where I did help with that, but yeah, it was I was more we were more buddies, right? We were more talking about daily life.
What ended up happening to your dad, like as the disease evolved? Did he end up being cared for at home, or did he have to transition to a long-term care facility? What happened to him?
Yeah, so eventually he got to a point where I think it was just sort of. I think at some point you kind of look, if you're in our situation and you look at the situation and you kind of think, okay, my dad's not getting better, so therefore we need to focus on my mother.
Mhm.
So it's kind of like got to a point where it kind of felt like, I don't think we asked her this, but it kind of felt like, Mom, have you had enough? Like, can you not do it anymore? And again, it all comes down to where you're living in the system, and where they're living is there's a couple long-term care. There's not a lot of choice, and if you put your name on, they say, well, you put your name on, you could be waiting for years. You put your name
Mhm.
on, you could be accepted next week. So she just thought, I better put his name in, and then it came around faster than we thought, and we're like, we better take this. Like, who knows? Because he's not going to get any better at home. So he did go into long-term care. I think before that, my mother, we were paying for someone to come in and try to shower him and give my mom a break as well. And this is after I had moved out, which was difficult as well. But yeah, he went into long-term care at a small town.
And how old was he when he passed away?
He passed away at 65. So basically,
Yes. Oh.
he went into the home, and I think he was only there a year and a half, and he very
Mhm.
definitely deteriorated a lot once he went into the
Mhm.
home.
When you talk about how you used filming as a way for you to to deal with everything, I look back and when I scroll through all the photos of my mother, one of my biggest regrets is that I didn't video the moments that she was still engaging, and I took photos along the way, but one of my biggest regrets is just not capturing by video some of those moments when she was still cognitively fine, and
Yeah,
because there's
I
nothing,
mean,
like, I don't have any of that.
yeah, it's something that I'd always done anyways. Is shot a lot of
Mhm.
video, so it wasn't anything new, or it wasn't even from when my mother saw me with the video camera or anybody. That was
Mhm.
kind of normal. But I was lucky enough to capture a lot of stuff, some good, some bad. But there
Mhm.
was times also, people often ask me, there was times where I couldn't film, right? When he
Mhm.
needed help, and it's like, oh, let me go grab the camera. It's like I have to be a son and help out and stuff like that.
Mhm.
But yeah, I mean, it's something, he never got to meet my two boys now, so I haven't shown them a lot of stuff, but they've seen some stuff, so it's definitely
Mhm.
stuff that we can use to remember.
So when I met you, I believe it was back in 2013, you were traveling across the country as a caregiver advocate on behalf of the Alzheimer's Societies of Canada, going around and just creating awareness about, I guess, the impact of early onset and just the impact on the caregiver. What motivated you to do that?
So what really happened is after my dad passed away, I had all this footage, like I was just saying, of him, and I really wanted to do something with it, and so that developed into that film that you had talked about at the beginning, called Forgetful Not Forgotten, which again played on TV in Ontario and BC. So my plan was never to become an advocate. What happened was I made the film, I put it together. Like after he passed away, I spent the next 2 years putting this film together, going back, interviewing my family, almost reliving the disease again, just going back through all the memories, all the footage. And then when the film came out, I thought, okay, that's it. I'm done, with the disease. It's gone. I don't have to worry about it anymore. But people started calling me. So basically the Alzheimer's Society, one of the chapters, might have been Kingston or Belleville, called me and said, oh, we want to have a screening of your film. Would you be willing to come and talk? So I thought, sure. So I did that, and I showed the film and I talked afterwards, and people were really engaged. And then the word got out, so everybody started calling me. So I ended up I was lucky enough that I was working sort of freelance here in Montreal, so I could take time off because, and I didn't have any kids. I was at the time as well. So I ended up going to almost every chapter of the Alzheimer's Society in Canada, again, screenings and giving these talks. And again, I think it was because it was needed. I think the Alzheimer's Society or anyone, they just want people to share their stories. And I really started to see that when I look out in the crowd, and then people would come up to me afterwards and say how much the film touched them, or how close it is to them because they're going through the exact same thing. And I just realized that this is what families need, and it's almost what we needed in the beginning as well. And there was a couple times we met some other families, but hearing from other families, meeting you, it really can help. You feel like you're not alone. You feel like,
yeah, exactly.
Other people are going through it. Other people are going through the exact same thing that you go through, especially with early onset as well. There's not as many out there. But yeah, people really want to tell you their stories. Half the time, it wasn't after the film, I would talk and then do a Q&A, and people weren't even asking me questions. They were just telling me what they were going through. And so people needed someone to listen to them as well. So I realized this, and then I thought, okay, I better, continue on with this. And I went out to BC and Alberta. I even went into the US a little bit, to the Alzheimer's Association in the States, and just did these sort of presentations. And then I got approached by Alzheimer's Society and different organizations for different projects. And that's how, through the University of Waterloo, I did the web series about the woman who had frontal temporal dementia. And then at the same time, I started to meet even younger families. So I thought I was young at 27 to go through this, but I met a bunch of families that had, teenagers or even kids that were younger. And I started to really think, like, what do these kids go through? Luckily enough, I was 27 and older. I could, move back with my parents. But what is a 10-year-old or a 13?
So please define early onset dementia. What do we mean by that? How old is that?
From what I understand, and it's just what people have told me, or doctors and stuff, it's just under 65. If you're diagnosed under 65, it's considered early onset or young onset, and then diagnosed older than 65 is just, I don't even know what it's called. It's just, I don't think it's called anything. But anyways, yeah, that's my understanding. It's under 65.
Okay, and talk to us about, because we're going to afterwards we'll show some clips, but talk to us about the impact of early onset dementia on the caregivers. And like you're saying, these are caregivers who are university students. Like, what is the impact on them?
Well, I think it's obviously, caregiving is tough at any age, right? Especially with a disease like this. When it's, like I said before, it's like kind of slow motion. You're kind of losing the person, as they're still alive, which is difficult. But to be a younger caregiver is, first of all, you're at a different stage in your life. You haven't had this whole life of, getting university, starting your career, starting a family, having your family get older, and then having a parent that, gets dementia, which is still difficult. I'm not saying it's not, but you're just at an earlier stage where you're losing out on all that. You're losing out on a parent. My dad never met my kids. You're losing a parent that might not come to your wedding, that, gets to have all these stages of your life. You're losing a parent that you can confide in for advice, to ask, all kinds of advice. So you're losing that. But when it comes to society or the community, there's nothing really built for young caregivers. At least there is more now than there was before. But like I can remember going to a support group with my mother, and obviously my mother was the youngest one there. So how do you think how young I was? So, and meeting younger caregivers, and they say I don't go to support groups because it's no one that I can relate to. So, a lot of the younger caregivers have to talk to their school and say, you know what, I need to be able to get some time off once in a while. Jobs, like I need to be flexible in my job so I can, go home when I need to, or if they live at home. A lot of them sacrifice their social life. They don't invite people over to their house to hang out because they're embarrassed by it or whatever, or might say, I can't go out Friday night because I need to be there, Saturday morning. So it's just they grow up very fast.
So if you could please set the stage. You want to show everyone a couple of clips from Chris's film, Much Too Young. Set the stage for us and maybe just talk about the film and who these families are.
Sure. So this is what I mentioned before. I decided, you have to understand, Forgetful Not Forgotten was a film that I had to make, but Much Too Young was a film that I really wanted to make. So as I was meeting these families, as I was touring, I started to think, okay, I should make another film just focusing on young caregivers. So I did my research, and I looked around and tried to find families. And through the Alzheimer's Society, I managed to find some families, 3 in Toronto area, 1 here in Montreal. And the film, and again, TVO came on board, which was great. And I had a small crew, and we filmed for over 2 years. But it was really just focusing on the kids. Again, what I just explained, what they went through and stuff like that. So we followed 4 families around for about 2 years and just showed them like basically a fly on the wall, like what they went on daily lives. So there's a lot of similarities that I went through with them, but there was a lot of different things too. And like I said, the young adults that we filmed, I won't call them kids, were very mature and very, they had to grow up fast, and they learned a lot. And you could really see how these families came together. I know families sometimes break apart, but these families really came together to help.
What I found very powerful in the film is how it really shows the symptoms of the disease. And, when we show the first clip, the woman who has trouble going down the stairs, how the disease impacts the spatial visual field, having difficulty going down the stairs. So could we roll the clips of the film, please?
Oh, okay. I'll see that.
Here, you come first.
I got it.
Here, step down.
Down,
down. A little more. It's okay. A little more.
A little more. Down
it's
there.
a big step.
Yeah,
a little more.
I will. I'm doing that. Like that?
Yep. Big step down. 1, 2, 3.
1,
2, 3.
3.
Yep. Go.
Here we go.
Yep. A little.
You're fine. Go. Yes.
Mom, please. No. Mom, I need you to help.
Shut up, please.
Hey.
Go and shut up, please.
Can you show me your teeth?
Be quiet, please.
Mom.
Go sit. No, go
Mom,
away.
I need you to help me.
What do you need?
Can you go, ah?
Shh, be quiet, you stupid.
Mom.
No, they hate them.
Okay.
They hate
Then you're
them.
gonna just get mad.
They hate them. They hate them. They hate them.
Relax.
And we hate
Mom.
them. And we hate them.
Mom,
You're
Mom.
You're out of those strain.
Mom,
You're out of
stop.
here. You're out of here.
Go.
You're out of here.
Ah.
You're out of here, yeah. You're out of here, yeah. You're already out. You're already out.
So
we were very lucky because these families let us into their homes. I think there was obviously a level of trust there with me because they had seen the film I made about my dad. But we got to a point, and it was the point that we wanted to get to, where they ignored us, so we could really film intimate moments, because we knew if you don't film these intimate moments, people really don't see the impact, right? I mean, I could have just done a bunch of interviews and get some photos from them and stuff like that. But we said to the families, we want to be here as much as we can. So it took a bit of time, we filmed and spent time with them, and they got to know us, and, we really opened up to them. And I was lucky enough that I only had 2 guys with me, a cameraman and a sound guy. We all became really close with these families. But we had to do that so we could film moments like those.
Mhm. So I have an important question to ask you now. So having gone through this journey yourself, and also probably from a male perspective as well, what advice would you share to caregivers going through this journey now?
Well, it's sort of what we talked about a bit before, and it's something that has helped me immensely, and then that is to share my story, to share what you're going through, whether it's to share it with a family member or a neighbor or someone else, or to actually document it through writing or video or photos or something. It's amazing how much it'll help you, because it'll, like I said before, other families will reach out and it'll help other families. Like, I wish now that we had met more families when we were going through it, because and you really realize that there are others out there, and you realize you can get through this, as tough as it is. You realize, and also documenting my dad and these families, you accept who they are. These people are for who they are. When they have the disease, it's like, you know what, I accept my dad for who he is right now. I can think about the past, or I can watch the videos I've shot, but when I'm going through this, and I don't know if I realized this at the time, but I always use this scenario. So when my dad was in the long-term care, people always, making these films, I got asked a lot of questions, and usually it's, not from, it's usually through the media, and people always want the heartbreak and stuff. So people always ask, when did your dad not know you were his son, right? And my answer is, like, I don't know that, and I actually don't care. Because if I went to visit him at the long-term care and he thought I was a friend, then there's nothing wrong with that.
Okay. And, all the work that I'm doing right now is all about, promoting the importance of education and support, and, that education is key on this journey. And without it, because there's not enough information. I was just thinking of when you first started the interview and you said, your mother was sitting in the doctor's office and there was a poster in front of her with the signs and symptoms. I mean, how fortunate that there was this poster, because that's not what happened. So I really believe in the importance of education, the importance of seeking out support. Like, would you agree with that?
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, I think education leads to support. And I think because of this disease, like, it has not changed since my dad was diagnosed. Like, there's no cure, there's no slowing it down. So all we can do is advance education and, help with support and stuff, and look at things differently. So the whole reason I made Much Too Young, it's like, let's look at this disease differently. Let's show the public. Let's show the public that what they haven't seen before. What I've said before is, my family thought you only got it in your 70s and 80s. So if we can show this disease for all it is, then people will be. You need to educate the general public too, right? Like, people have this, you lose, you'll agree with me that you lose family and friends, right? Because people don't understand, and they're scared of the disease. So if you educate them and they don't become scared of it, then, they're going to be a lot, they'll be able to help out more. They know a family member, if someone says, oh, my neighbor just got diagnosed, but I don't know what to say to them. I'm like, just say to them what you used to say to them. Talk to them the way you usually do. They need your help now.
Chris, how could people view both of your films? How do they find them?
So you can go to YouTube and just search for Forgetful Not Forgotten. And with Much Too Young, you just go to tvo.org and search Much Too Young. Unfortunately, Much Too Young is only available in Canada right now.
Okay, well, so I highly recommend that for those individuals that are going through this right now, to watch that film. It's very, very powerful, very educational, and really gives a glimpse in terms of how the disease evolves and the real impact that it has on family members, not only on younger carers, but on all carers in general. Chris, thank you so much for taking the time and being on the show today. Like, I really appreciate it. It's always great to have my co-advocate, my co-educator with me, and hope to include you in all of many projects that we have planned in the future. Please join us next week on Wednesday, August 5th. We will be talking about supporting healthy communities through innovative educational technology with Dr. Gerald Freed, Director of the Steinberg Center for Simulation and Interactive Learning, and Associate Dean, Education Technology and Innovation in the Faculty of Medicine at McGill University. Really looking forward to that, talking about virtual reality and online education, and really how the medical students of the future are taught with simulation. This webcast is an initiative of the McGill Dementia Education Program, which is funded by private donations. Once again, I would like to thank Home Care Assistance for making this webcast possible. If you would like to make a contribution to our program or for more information, please visit mcgill.ca/dementia. And if you have specific topics or recommendations or questions that you would like to suggest to us, please email us at dementia@mcgill.ca. Until next week, take good care of yourselves and your loved ones, and thank you for tuning in. Thanks, Chris.
Thank you.